let's put the recording on. We have a new episode of In the Verse, Inside Star Citizen. It's not in the verse anymore. And actually, I wanted to watch this together. I kind of wanted to wait for Jack, but Jack doesn't seem to be around. So I want to watch this together, give some commentary on what's about to come, and yeah, just have a good time. So let's get to it. Are you guys ready? Have you guys seen this already? That's my biggest question. It seems to be a big one, a biggie. So I'm curious. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. All right.
Rastar, first introduced in development at CitizenCon 2951, is a tool that allows developers to easily place and manipulate structures on the surface of planets and moons in systems Stanton, Pyro, and beyond. And in the time since, work's progressed to stabilize and shore up the tech so the team can use it on a whole host of locations, from the most recent derelict settlements to a reconfiguration of existing UGFs in the upcoming Alpha 320.
Currently in the Stanton system, there are 70 underground.
So it's basically a tool that helps them make locations. Especially like outside of space station. I'm not sure if it's also being used for space station itself, but we'll probably get into that.
Ground facilities, or UGFs as we call them. And when these were built a couple of years ago, we had the kits to build a wide variety of these assets. However, due to technical limitations, we weren't able to realize their full potential. At that time, we had 70 locations, but we only had 2 security UGFs and 2 drug UGFs. This isn't a case of we haven't had enough assets or enough time to do the art. Up until this point, we have all the things that we need to do the job. The Rastar tool has really just allowed us to take this to the next level. We are now able to go back and to revisit these 70 locations to create a wide amount of variety so that each location doesn't look like a copy.
Oh, this sounds like music to my ears. So essentially what they're saying is that they might have, and I don't know on what kind of timeline this is, but that the average bunker style, they will have like a little bit of a different bunker. Can also put this full screen. So we get like different configurations of bunkers. We can actually make use of the modularity, or they can.
Copy-paste version of the other. This has allowed us to really go back, spend some time with these locations and help them realize their full potential.
Rastar is our in-house planetary location building tool. We use an RTS placement system combined with modular elements to allow the artist to build locations at the surface of planets and celestial bodies. Since CitizenCon, we highly focus on usability and stability to make the tool rock solid. It's a small project by 3 people, Mark, Nice, and I, and we are excited for the developers to be able to use it now.
These are not the new UGFs that you've probably heard about in events like CitizenCon.
Okay.
These are just the same old UGFs, but we've just given them a fresh coat of paint, and we're going to be placing them alongside the existing locations and just giving them a bit of a refresh. Let me show you how Rastar works in the engine. So here we are on Daymar. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of the Rastar tool in action and how we build up a location from scratch. So the first thing that we would usually do, not in this case with the UGS because they already have predefined locations, but we do a little bit of location scouting on the planet to find a nice, cool location. So I'm going to open up the Rastar tool over here, and the first thing that I need to do is create a location. Before I go any further, I do need to say that the UI for the Rastar tool as it stands is not the final version that the players are going to see at the end of the day. This is purely for artistic and development purposes, and I will say it has definitely come a long way in the...
Okay, gotcha. I was kind of misunderstanding. I thought it was like initially a internal tool for them to build locations faster, but yes, it makes a lot of sense now that they're saying it out loud. Rastar is also a tool that they will eventually launch to the public, or somehow kind of implement in game so that the users can use this to make the outposts, as I understand it. Outposts, and I'm not sure what kind of other things we will be able to build in game, but uh, I think this is why it's important for them to kind of show us how it works. But
the 2 years that I've been using it. So the first thing we do is we create a location. We get this grid on the ground over here, which allows us to define the location size and apply different effects and statuses to the location. We have some settings for the aesthetics like dirt and wear, which I can get into in a little bit. But the first thing that I want to do is create a much larger location size, because I know that I want to cover quite a large footprint. And then we're going to go ahead and add an element from the UGF main buildings. And let's add a drug one to the mix over here.
oh,
So that's going to be the base
building.
building that everything is dressed around. That's going to be the center point of this location. The cool thing that Rastar enables us to do is also have certain modifiers and volumes applied to our object containers, so that, for example, if I were to move this location up, the terrain would automatically conform to the ground that needs to be. That just saves artists a lot of time from having to do these sort of things manually and allows us to focus on the creative side of things.
Doesn't look perfect, but
The next thing we need
good.
is 3 turrets. These turrets, depending on whether you are at a security UGF or a drug UGF, will react in different ways to the player. Obviously more hostile in a drug environment than if you were in a normal friendly environment.
Is those the
So
turrets?
these will go just dotted around the place, and these currently don't have any turrets spawned on them, but they do that when I hop into game.
Oh.
The next thing we want to do,
and then you can like pick the for example, there's like a ridge over here. Then you can possibly pick some locations for the turrets to be placed on, so you have like better defense than what currently is in game right now, where you can kind of hide behind some rocks and they won't shoot at you, because they will shoot at you, but they'll hit the rock.
is we want to focus on large to small shapes and dressing. So the first thing I might do over here when walking through this process is get some of these larger clusters, these shipping containers. The UGFs are used for storage as well as research, so having ample space for storage outside as well as in is always good to have. And now I just want to define like the footprint of the space, so dividing it up into sub areas as well as the larger UGFs. So we can have, you know, maybe some structures like research stations and habitations on the exterior, and just break that into little branches of spaces.
Yeah, I don't know.
We might have one over here, and then maybe let's spread this location out a little bit. Maybe let's have a little bit of dressing near these turrets. So I'll grab one of these clusters. Cool thing with Rastar, you can also do like quick rotates before you place stuff, so you have a good idea of what stuff is going to look like before you do.
You just place it in
Just
the ground
like to get a
and
little
it'll
bit
automatically
of unevenness to the terrain over here, helps things from feeling too flat. And let's get one of these larger structures in the back over here, these sort of like chimneys. So this is how I would normally go about creating like 3 distinct separate locations, even within one larger point of interest. So now the point from this afterwards would be to just create paths leading to and from the UGF that would naturally.
It's. I was about to say I was looking for like it's all cool and everything, but it doesn't look like there's any connection in between them. So, you know, it would be more exciting to see some kind of road building or whatever. So it's a lot easier, for example, to use ground vehicles to go from one outpost to like the landing area or something like that.
Actually draw the player in, and then to set dress with smaller elements. So there's some more functional things that I do need to do first. For example, the UGF does come with these 3 floodlights, but we might need extra areas of illumination elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and place some extra floodlights around here. When the Rastar tool is turning red like that, it's just doing a collision check on all of the objects around it to make sure I'm not placing anything on top of each other and just making sure everything is kept neat and tidy.
I like that.
So I might need to just place it over there, and then if I want it closer, I can always snap it to a surface closer. Now that everything should be able to be visible at any time of day or night, since we are working with a very dynamic time of day over here, now I want some more functional things like roads leading up towards the UGF. So we have these over here. Might be a little bit small to see. Just like a generic path that leads up to the UGF. I'm just going to do a quick rotate over these. And then, of course, all of our normal editor functionality is also linked to the Rastar location. So, for example, if I want to align this road to the UGF, then I can just rotate that.
Definition of a road.
Make sure everything's nice and centered and where it needs to be. Okay, so now that I have my roads placed, I have my floodlights placed, I know I'm not going to be crashing into anything in terms of placing stuff at the Rastar location. Now I can go ahead and do a little bit of dressing around here. So getting in some small shapes, just some scatter around the location. Then I'll go ahead and grab some of the more functional looking things. That one. Structure 8. Some big shapes over here that we can surround. Go have the terrain adjust to that, and then bring in some of these. Just got to make sure that things aren't intersecting or clipping between each other too much, because that never looks good.
Oh, actually, it started looking better.
Let's start building this out a little bit more. So this is the process that we follow to create a fully fledged location. We set dress all the different elements. We play it from a player perspective, because sometimes scale can be a little bit funny up in the air like this. But this is the general process that we go through in order to create these locations and make sure that they are fun to play, essentially. So yeah, that is a quick little sneak peek at the Rastar tool and how it allows us to very quickly iterate on our different locations and to make changes very quickly, and also to realize the potential of locations that we dropped years ago, but now that this tool really allows to let them shine.
So one thing for Rastar is to move away from building block, which gave us a really great start, to further integrate it into the editor.
And again, these are not the new UGFs. These are just the new UGFs. Someone from the lore or the story department probably needs to come up with a better name for that. But we're not erasing any of the work we've done in the past. We're just building upon and improving. And these will sit alongside the big, colossal UGFs when they are released.
So what did we learn this week?
Well, I still have one big question. It's the big W question. The when.
Well, we learned that Rastar may still run on programmer art, but it's a fully armed and operational tool already in use by our developers. That with it, the existing UGFs, limited to only 4 variations until now, are finally realizing their customization potential in the upcoming Alpha 320. And
wait, what?
Released.
But it's a fully armed and operational tool already in use by our developers. That with it, the existing UGFs, limited to only 4 variations until now, are finally realizing their customization potential in the upcoming Alpha 320.
In the upcoming Alpha 320, it's kind of funny how they suddenly started calling it Alpha 320 release, kind of. Well, they didn't say release, but they are being a lot more careful with words. I think it's because there was some like legal drama where they have to make sure that some parts of the game are shown as a released version. But more importantly, they said that the locations that we have right now are being redone in 320. Is that what I'm hearing right? It's like literally the most important information.
Still run on programmer art, but it's a fully armed and operational tool already in use by our developers.
It's already in use by our developers?
That with it, the existing UGFs, limited to only 4 variations until now, are finally realizing their customization potential in the upcoming Alpha 320.
So they already being realized in the upcoming Alpha 320. So yes, it's soon, TM.
And that its next evolution, already well underway. Now don't forget that this year's Ship Showdown is right around the corner. Of course, it's your annual chance to vote on which flyable ship has to become John Crew's favorite each and every year. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
Very good short video. The most important information was left in like literally 3 sentences at the end. But it kind of gave us like a little bit of a showcase of what the what Rastar looks like, what it means, and what it will do.